Hi, Chase McKinney again. And we've heard from Kevin, we've heard from Mike, and now Melissa. And now we're going to be starting another skill set. And I'd like to introduce to you my dear friend, Alex, for this week's newest skill.
Hi, my name is Alex Newcomer, and I'm a licensed professional counselor in Oklahoma. Welcome to another session of the DBT group. Today we're going to be talking about distress tolerance. First off, why should you care? Well, pain and distress are not things that we can entirely avoid. They're just part of life. And if we can't learn to accept them as part of life, then we're going to experience even more pain and distress than we necessarily have to. If we learn how to increase our tolerance for distress, then we're going to suffer less. We'll still may feel pain, we may feel discomfort, but the suffering associated with it can be lessened. Okay? And also to remember that not all distress is bad, and a lot of times impulsive decisions that we make in order to try to escape distress can sometimes keep us from making important changes, doing things differently that we want to see in our lives. Okay? So why do we feel emotional distress? Again, it's a part of life. Everybody experiences this, usually many times. Okay. And that's the period of time when we're most likely to make impulsive decisions, when we're most likely to do things that we're going to regret later. Okay. Sometimes this happens whenever we're feeling threatened, for whatever reason that is. If we feel physically threatened, for instance, if there was, for some reason, a lion in the room with you, you wouldn't stop to think, how did this lion get here? That's weird. You would immediately think, oh no, I got to do something about this, right? There's some parts of our nervous system that take over to help us kind of respond to that threat in a very quick period of time. Our heart is going to start beating really fast so that we can get blood pumping to the extremities of our body so we can either fight back against the threat or run away from the threat as fast as we possibly can. So that's a physical threat, but in some ways the same thing can happen when we feel emotionally threatened, whether intentionally or not. For instance, if somebody texts you, hey, we need to talk, and you may in your mind think, oh no, what does that mean? Is there something wrong? Did I do something wrong? And that may not even be the case, but there's still some of those same things continue to happen for us, like if we were around a lion. Maybe not as extreme, but in some ways our heart's going to beat fast. Our mind is going to be racing. We're not going to be thinking at our best during those times. Okay. And once we get out of those situations, we don't immediately calm down. It takes some time, but we always do. This can also happen if we're remembering something bad that happened in the past, or if we're worrying about something bad that might potentially happen in the future. All of these things can make ours go into our emotional mind. So what are some skills for surviving this kind of distress? Okay. So whenever it starts to happen, the choice that we have is, what am I going to do about it? Right? I can either respond out of my emotional mind and make impulsive decisions without thinking. I can give in to the urge to do something in that moment without thinking first. And if I do that, a lot of times it tends to be something impulsive or destructive. For instance, I think we've all done many things multiple times in our lives that we've regretted afterwards. We made an impulsive decision while we were feeling overwhelmed emotionally, and then later we started to calm down and we thought about it differently, and we think, oh no, I wish I hadn't done that. You can take some time to think about, what are some of the things that you've done whenever you're distressed, when you're operating out of that emotional mind, that you regretted doing later once you calmed down. For instance, you may have said something that you regret to someone in your family, or to a friend, or someone that you care about. You may have thrown something, you may have broken something, and you didn't feel better after that happened. You thought, man, that was stupid. But that's what happens sometimes when we make those impulsive decisions without thinking first. So one of the things we can do to help when this happens is the stop skill. So when your emotional mind starts to take over, think of stop. Okay. First part is literally stop. Give yourself time to think. Freeze, even for a couple of seconds. Sometimes that's all we need keep from making an impulsive decision, doing something that we're going to regret. When you start to feel overwhelmed, stop. Okay? After you do that, T, take a step back. Just take some time out, think about the situation, think about what it is that you want to do. Right? Your emotional mind is an important part of you, but it's not all of you. You don't have to make all your decisions from your emotion mind. Give yourself some time, take some deep breaths, then get back to it. Okay. Observe what's happening inside of you, what's happening around you. Don't jump to conclusions. Give yourself some time to think about what is actually going on. And then as you've done all that, proceed mindfully. Think about, how can my wise mind handle this situation? So take an opportunity to practice this skill. Think about something that has the potential to get you really stressed out. Kind of puts you in that emotional mind. For instance, what if somebody says something mean about you? 4 steps to it. Stop, take a step back, observe, proceed mindfully. Think about an example of something. So if someone was saying something mean about you, stop. Notice what's going on. Notice that your emotion mind is starting to take over. Take a pause. Take a pause. Resist the urge to react without thinking, because that oftentimes can make things worse. Okay. Take a step back, give yourself the time you need to start thinking clearly about it. Take some deep breaths. Think about what's going on. What do I know about the situation? What are the people around me doing? What are they saying? How are they responding to it? And what are the options that I have? And once I've thought about my different options, what choice do I want to make? What is it I'm trying to get out of the situation? And what are some things I can do that can either make the situation better or make the situation worse? Okay. Some other helpful skills are with the ability to distract ourselves. So sometimes we can get stuck in our emotion mind. And whenever this happens, sometimes we'll be going back over conversations that we've had with people in the past, things that happened that we didn't like the way that it went. If you've ever had a time when you thought about a comeback to something that someone had said earlier, sometimes even hours before or the day before, and you think, man, I wish I would have thought about that at the time. Well, a lot of times this is what's happening. Our mind is getting stuck on that thing that was uncomfortable or that didn't go the way we wanted. And so it's continuing to get stuck in our brain and play over and over again. Okay. When this happens, we can just get too focused on our own distress, may start thinking about painful memories or feelings. And when this happens, it can be really hard for us to stop sometimes because our brain wants to solve it. And this is when distraction skills become important for us to use. But first, we got to notice that something's off. If we notice that our brain is focusing on something that's really uncomfortable and it's something that we can't really change in a quick manner, it's the time to use our wise mind accepts. Okay. So these are the accepts. What are some activities that you can do? Do something, physically get up, move around, go for a walk, pet a dog or a cat. So think for yourself, what are some activities that you like to do? First C is contributing. Get your mind off of yourself. Doing something to help someone else can help us get our mind off of ourselves and get us focused on other people. And doing something valuable, something that we feel like we're making a contribution. So think about what are some ways that you can help someone else. Make some comparisons. You can think about someone who doesn't have as much as you, someone who's less fortunate than you. Or think about some ways that your life now is better than what it had been in the past. Think about a problem that you used to have that you don't have currently. So what are some ways that you're fortunate? And what are some difficulties you've overcome? Emotions. Do something that causes a different emotion to come up. Read a book, watch a movie or TV show. Do something that makes you feel the way that you want to feel. For instance, think about what is some of the music that really puts you in a good mood. Pushing away. This is like either physically getting out of the situation or blocking the thoughts. One way you can do this is just kind of imagine yourself putting your uncomfortable emotions away in a box and putting that box up on a shelf. You're walking away from the shelf. You can come back to it later, but right now I don't need to deal with that. Okay. Thoughts. Start to think about something that doesn't involve those uncomfortable emotions. Anything that kind of gets your mind somewhere else. Sing a song in your head, you can count something, think about something that you really enjoy, like a book or a TV show. So think about what are some of the things that you enjoy thinking about. And when you start to get stressed out, think about those things. And also the last one is senses. Just focus on a different physical sensation. For instance, hold a piece of ice, taste something that's sour, look for things around the room that have a certain color. So for you, take some time and think about what are some of the things that you like to smell, some of the things you like to taste, things you like to see, touch, and hear. And whenever you start to get overwhelmed, you can use these accepts to get them out of your mind. Give yourself time to cool off.